The stars were silent, shining cold above the black sea of space. Ethan sat in the command room of the transport ship, staring at the orders on the glowing screen. His hands were tight, his jaw locked. He had survived 3 campaigns, 3 bloody wars against alien enemies. But this order felt worse than any battle. He was told he must not fight alone. He must take a partner. And not just any partner. An alien. Her name was Lyra, a warrior from a race that once tried to burn human colonies. A race humans never forgave. A race Ethan himself had fought, blade against blade, on ruined planets where smoke never cleared. When the door slid open, she entered with sharp steps. Her armor shimmered, strange symbols glowing faintly across the metal. Her eyes were bright and cold, like twin suns hidden behind storms. She looked at him as if he was nothing, less than nothing. Neither spoke for several seconds. The silence was heavy, thick with hate. Ethan broke it first. "I don't work with her," he said, his voice steady but full of fire. Lyra's lips curved into something that was not quite a smile. "Good," she answered, her voice smooth and sharp like glass. "I don't work with humans," but the command was clear. The mission was not a choice. Somewhere in the edge of known space, a strange signal had appeared. It was powerful, sending out waves that cut across human and alien systems alike. Both governments were afraid. Both feared it could be a weapon, or worse, a call from something older, something darker. And so, 1 human soldier and 1 alien warrior were chosen. They were enemies. They were strangers. But they were forced to be teammates. The ship left orbit, engines glowing blue as they cut across the void. Ethan sat at the front, watching the stars slide past. Lyra stayed behind him, silent, her hands moving over strange tools that no human understood. He felt her eyes sometimes on his back, and every time, his fists tightened. He remembered his brother, killed in the war by her people. He remembered fire falling from the sky. He remembered screams. And now, he was expected to sit in the same ship with one of them. Lyra's thoughts were no softer. She remembered the day humans stormed her city, burning her home, calling her kind monsters. She remembered the hunger, the pain, the endless hate that grew like iron inside her heart. And now, she was forced to travel beside a human to trust him. Impossible. The silence between them was a battlefield with no weapons, only looks and breaths sharp as knives. Hours passed in cold quiet. Then the ship shook. A warning light flashed red. Ethan jumped to the controls, hands moving fast. Lyra was already at the weapon systems, her armor plates opening to reveal strange alien tech. The radar Scream 3 ships were closing in. Unknown design. No human or alien signature. "They're not ours," Ethan said. "Not mine either," Lyra replied, her voice low. The attackers fired. Blue energy bolts hit their shields, shaking the transport hard. Ethan pulled the ship into a sharp dive. Lyra returned fire, her weapons glowing bright and cutting across the dark. The enemies moved fast, circling them like predators. "Focus your aim," Ethan shouted. "Do not command me, human." Lyra snapped back, her hands blazing over the controls. Yet somehow, their moves began to match. His flight patterns, her shots, they started to blend. Enemy after enemy moved closer. But the two of them, even through hate, were fighting as one. One attacker exploded in flame. Another spun away, wings torn apart. But before the third could be destroyed, it released a strange black dart. The dart hit their ship, not with fire, but with silence. The engines coughed, power drained, alarms screamed. The transport spun out of control, falling toward the shadow of a nearby planet. Ethan fought the wheel, teeth clenched, sweat running down his forehead. Lyra tried to reroute power, her fingers glowing with alien symbols. Sparks flew, fire spread. The planet below grew closer, its storm swirling like a giant mouth ready to swallow them whole. For the first time, their eyes met not with hate, not with anger, but with the same thing. Fear if they did not work together. They would die together. Lyra shouted, "Give me control of the core." Ethan growled, "Do it fast, or we're dead." They moved as one. She ripped open a panel, strange light flowing out like living fire. He forced the ship level, pulling hard against gravity. The engines roared, half dead but alive enough to slow their fall. Still, it was not enough. The ship smashed through the planet's clouds, storms tearing across the hull. Lightning flashed, rain burned against the metal. The ground rushed up to meet them. Ethan shouted one last order: "Brace." And then the world became fire, smoke, and silence. When the crash ended, the ship lay broken on the alien soil. Sky was blood red, the ground sharp with black stone. Ethan crawled out, coughing, his arm bleeding. Lyra stepped out too, armor cracked. Her eyes still sharp, but her breath heavy. They looked at each other. Two enemies stranded on a world unknown. The mission had only begun. And already, someone wanted them dead. The storm still raged above the crash site. Black clouds twisted across the blood-red sky, and thunder rolled like war drums. The ship lay broken on the jagged stone, its metal burned and smoking. Ethan pushed himself up, every muscle aching, his uniform torn. Across from him, Lyra stood tall, despite the cracks in her alien armor. They had survived the fall. But survival was not victory. Ethan scanned the horizon. The planet was strange sharp mountains like teeth, rivers glowing faint blue in the distance, air thick with heat. It felt alive, watching them, waiting. His instincts screamed danger. Lyra's gaze was fixed on him, hard and unblinking. "If you had flown better, human, we would not be trapped here," she said. Ethan's jaw tightened. "If you had given me cover fire sooner, we wouldn't have been hit." The old anger rose between them again, sharp as knives. Their words were weapons, each strike cutting deep. They were enemies forced to share the same broken ground. But before their fight could grow, the sky itself answered. A deep hum rolled across the air. Lights glimmered above the clouds, shapes moving fast. Ethan froze. Lyra tilted her head, her eyes narrowing. "They followed us," Ethan whispered. 3 dark ships descended through the storm, the same attackers who had shot them down. Their engines howled, glowing red like burning eyes. They spread out, circling the crash site like vultures around the dying. Ethan's blood ran hot. "They want us dead before we even start this mission." Lyra's voice was calm to calm. "Then they will have to try harder." The first attack came fast. Energy bolts tore into the ground, exploding black rock into fire and dust. Ethan dove behind the broken wing of the transport. Lyra moved with alien grace, rolling across the stone and pulling a strange blade from her armor. Its edge glowed like lightning, humming with power. "Cover me," Ethan shouted, lifting his rifle. Lyra shot him a glare. "Do not give me orders." Still, she moved when he fired. His bullets ripped through the dust, forcing one enemy ship to rise higher. Lyra leaped onto the broken hull, her blade slicing the air as if daring the ships to come closer. The attackers circled again, firing from above. Bolts smashed into the ground, throwing fire around them. The air burned. The noise was endless. Ethan's rifle clicked empty. He cursed, searching for another clip. Lyra jumped down beside him, sparks flashing off her blade as she blocked a blast that would have killed them both. "Stay alive, human," she hissed. "For someone who hates me, "You're doing a good job saving me," Ethan shot back. Her lips curved into something sharp, half smile, half snarl. Do not mistake survival for kindness. The battle turned desperate. Their ship was ruined, their weapons few. The enemy ships pressed closer, testing, hunting. Ethan's mind raced. He saw the broken engine core lying half buried in the dirt, glowing faintly. If he could overload it, the explosion might take one of the enemy ships down. "Distract them," he told Lyra, already running toward the core. She called after him, furious. "I am not your distraction." But she was already moving, leaping across rocks, throwing her blade with deadly precision. It cut through the air, forcing one ship to swerve. The others chased her, firing again and again. Dust and fire filled the sky. Ethan reached the core, his hands burning as he tore open wires. Sparks bit his skin, the heat unbearable. Come on," he muttered, forcing the energy to surge. The hum grew louder, brighter. "Lyra," T shouted. Now she understood. In one smooth motion, she hurled her blade straight into the nearest ship's engine. The blade buried itself deep, sparks exploding. The ship lost control, spinning downward straight into the glowing core. The explosion ripped the ground apart, fire roared into the sky. The enemy ship was torn in half, pieces raining across the rocks. The shockwave threw Ethan to the ground, his breath stolen from his chest. When the fire cleared, silence followed. 2 ships remained. They circled high now, slower, cautious. Lyra retrieved her blade, her chest rising with sharp breaths. Ethan pulled himself up, dust and blood covering his face. Their eyes met through the smoke. For the first time, there was no insult, no anger. Only the heavy truth they had saved each other. Ethan said, low, "Not bad." Lyra answered, her voice steady, "You too." It was not friendship, not yet, but it was something. The remaining ships did not strike again. Instead, they pulled back, vanishing into the storm as quickly as they had arrived. Ethan's hand tightened. Around his rifle, "They're not finished. They'll be back." Lyra's gaze followed the fading lights. Her voice was dark, filled with certainty. "They know who we are. Someone sent them to stop us. Someone does not want us to discover the truth of that signal." Ethan looked out across the alien horizon, the sharp mountains, the glowing rivers. The endless storms, his chest tightened. This planet was no safe place. It was a trap, a battlefield, and now their prison. Beside him, Lyra sheathed her blade. Her armor cracked, but her eyes still burning with cold fire. "We cannot survive apart," she said quietly. "Not here, not against them." Ethan studied her, hearing the hate still beneath her words, but also something else. A warning, a choice. He nodded slowly. "Then we survive together. For now." The storm above cracked with lightning, as if the planet itself laughed at their fragile alliance. 2 enemies, trapped on a hostile world, hunted by ships that wanted them dead. Forced to fight side by side, even as hate burned inside their hearts. The storm finally slowed. The sky was still red, but the thunder faded into the distance, leaving only the sound of the broken ship hissing with smoke. Ethan stood on the jagged stone, his chest heavy, his body sore. Beside him, Lyra cleaned the edge of her glowing blade, her armor scratched, but her stance proud. They had survived the crash. They had survived the attack. But survival was only the first step. The planet stretched out before them, endless and strange. Black mountains cut the horizon, sharp like knives. The rivers glowed blue, shining faintly in the dark. Strange cries echoed from far away, creatures unseen but near. The air itself felt heavy, like breathing ash. Ethan studied the wreckage of their ship. The hull was torn open. The engine was dead. Supplies were scattered and half-burned. T kicked at a metal plate, frustration burning in his chest. "We're stuck here," he muttered. Lyra turned to him, her bright eyes calm but cold. "We adapt. We survive." Her voice carried no fear, but Ethan could feel the same truth inside her lone. They would both die. The attackers would return. The planet itself was dangerous. And they had almost nothing left. Hours passed as they searched the wreck. Ethan found a half-broken rifle, a few energy packs, and rations that would last only days. Lyra recovered her blade and a set of alien tools glowing faint green. Together, they pulled what they could into a small pile. Ethan sighed. "This won't last us a week." Lyra replied flatly, "Then we find more." It was simple for her, as if fear did not exist. But Ethan saw the way her eyes moved, sharp, always searching the horizon. She was ready for danger at every breath. They argued soon after. Ethan wanted to build a shelter near the ship, using the wreck for cover. Lyra disagreed. "Staying here is death," she said. "The enemy will track us. The storm will return. We must move." Ethan snapped back. "And go where? We don't know what's out there." Lyra stepped closer, her eyes burning. "Then learn, or die here waiting." The air between them grew tense again, heavy with hate and pride. Ethan clenched his fists, wanting to fight, but deep down, he knew she was right. The planet was no place to stay still. They set out as night fell. The alien night was alive with sound. Strange insects glowed in the air, drifting like small stars. The rivers lit their path, shining blue in the darkness. But the land was cruel. Sharp rocks cut their boots. The heat of the day turned to bitter cold. Ethan carried the supplies. Lyra walked ahead, blade ready. They did not speak much. Every sound in the shadows kept them alert. Then the first creature came. From the rocks. A beast leapt, its body long, black scales shining, teeth curved like blades. Its roar shook the ground. Ethan raised his rifle, firing quick bursts. The bullets hit but bounced off the hard skin. The beast charged. Lyra moved faster than lightning. Her blade sliced through the dark, cutting across the beast's side. Sparks of blue blood sprayed, glowing as it hit the stone. The monster screamed, swinging its claws, but she dodged, striking again and again until the creature fell still. Ethan lowered his rifle, breathing heavy. He looked at her, surprised. "You saved me." Lyra wiped her blade clean, her face unreadable. "I saved myself. If you die, I die too." Her words were cold, but Ethan noticed the smallest flicker in her. Something softer, something unspoken. They kept moving. Hours passed until they reached the base of a ruined structure, hidden among the mountains. Stone walls, broken towers, symbols carved into the rock. The ruins were old, very old, yet the marks were clear symbols from both human and alien languages. Ethan froze, staring. This isn't possible. These signs, they're human. Lyra stepped forward, tracing the carvings with her hand. "And these," she said softly, "are mine. 2 races, 2 enemies. Both marked on the same stone. Side by side." "How?" Ethan whispered. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "Someone wanted us to forget this." The ruins seemed alive with secrets, whispering across time. The air grew colder, as if the stones themselves remembered wars long before theirs. But before they could search deeper, the ground shook. A hidden trap activated. Stones shifted, walls groaned. Suddenly the entrance collapsed, sealing them inside the ruins' dark heart. Dust filled the air. Ethan coughed, pulling his rifle close. Lyra lifted her blade, the glow lighting the walls. The chamber was narrow, deep, stretching into shadows. Strange symbols lined the floor, glowing faintly under her blade's light. They were trapped together now, with no way back. Ethan leaned against the wall, his chest rising fast. "Great, we're buried alive." Lyra's voice was calm but sharp. "Do not fear. There is always a way forward." Ethan laughed bitterly. "You talk like you've already seen the future." Her eyes met his in the dim light. "I talk like someone who will not die here." For a long moment, they stared at each other in silence. The hate was still there, but something else grew in the space between them and understanding. They needed each other. Outside, the storm roared again. Inside, the ruins waited with secrets older than both their people. Two enemies, stranded together, forced deeper into a past that someone tried to erase. The air inside the ruins was cold, thick with dust, as if no breath had filled it for 1,000 years. Ethan and Lyra stood in the half-dark, their bodies tense, their weapons drawn. The glow from Lyra's blade painted the walls in soft light, revealing carvings, strange marks that blended human letters with alien symbols. Ethan touched one of the carvings with his hand. The stone was warm, pulsing faintly like a living thing. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "This can't be real. Humans and your people were never allies. We were always enemies." Lyra traced another mark with her fingers, her eyes narrowing. "No, we were not always enemies. Someone wanted us to believe that." The words hung heavy in the air. They moved deeper into the chamber, the walls closing around them like a throat swallowing its prey. The floor was covered in dust, but under the dust, the same symbols repeated, glowing faintly with every step. Ethan's boots echoed softly, each sound swallowed by the silence. At the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, half broken, covered in vines of black stone. On it lay a crystal sphere, cracked but still glowing with faint blue light. It pulsed, gently, like the heartbeat of a dying star. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes locked on it. "This is not just a ruin. This is memory." Ethan frowned. "Memory?" She placed her palm on the sphere. The light brightened, spreading across the walls. Suddenly, the chamber was alive with moving images, ghostly shapes of humans and aliens standing together, fighting side by side against an enemy neither Ethan nor Lyra had ever seen before. It was a tall, shadow-like figure, with burning red eyes and wings of black smoke. The vision showed it leading armies of machines, tearing through worlds, burning skies. Humans and aliens fought together against it, shoulder to shoulder, until the creature was finally defeated. Then the vision shifted. The two races, once united, turned on each other, lies spread like poison. Fear grew. Trust shattered. The enemy was gone, but war remained. The vision ended. The sphere cracked further and went dark. Silence fell heavy. Ethan's breath shook. So all this time, we were fighting each other because of lies. Lyra's jaw tightened, because someone wanted us divided. The walls rumbled suddenly. Dust fell from the ceiling. The ruins trembled as if they did not want the truth. Revealed, Ethan grabbed Lyra's arm, pulling her back as a section of wall collapsed. Behind the broken stones, a hidden passage opened, glowing faintly with the same blue light. They stared at it. Neither spoke. Finally, Ethan said, "Whatever's down there, I don't think we're supposed to see it." Lyra's eyes flashed with determination. "Then we must." They stepped into the hidden passage. The floor sloped downward, leading into a vast chamber buried deep under the earth. The walls here were smooth, metal rather than stone, covered with symbols that shifted like they were alive. In the center stood a massive machine, silent and broken, its wires spread out like veins. Ethan's chest tightened. "This isn't a ruin. This is technology, old technology, older than both our races. Lyra moved around the machine, her fingers brushing its surface. It was theirs, she whispered. The ones from the vision. The shadow enemy. As if hearing her words, the machine flickered weakly to life. A voice filled the chamber, distorted, broken, but still clear enough to understand. If you hear this, then our war is not over. The enemy will return. We hid the truth to protect you, but lies cannot hold forever. Only unity will save you. The voice faded. The machine went dark again. Ethan's heart pounded. They knew. They knew we'd turn on each other if we remembered too much. Lyra's eyes burned with fire. No, someone twisted this. Someone used a lie for power. Before they could speak more, the ground shook violently. The walls cracked. From the shadows, mechanical shapes crawled forward, drones ancient. Guardians of the ruins. Their red eyes lit the chamber, their claws clicking against the floor. Ethan lifted his rifle. Of course there's guardians. Lyra's blade hummed to life. Then let us wake them properly. The drones swarmed. Ethan fired burst after burst, sparks flying as bullets tore into metal. Lyra moved like flowing fire, her blades slicing through machines with speed and grace. But for every drone they destroyed, two more crawled out of the dark. The chamber shook harder, pieces of the ceiling falling. The ruins were collapsing. Ethan shouted, "We need to get out, now." Lyra cut down another drone, her eyes flashing. With stubborn pride, not without what we learned, Ethan grabbed her wrist, pulling her toward the passage. Knowledge won't matter if we're dead. Together they ran, fighting their way through waves of drones. Sparks lit the chamber like lightning. Metal shrieked as it was torn apart. The passage shook as they burst out into the upper chamber. Behind them, the ruins collapsed, burying the machines and the secret deeper under stone. They fell to the ground outside, gasping for breath, covered in dust and smoke. The ruins were now nothing but rubble. Ethan stared at the destruction, his chest heaving. We had proof. Now it's gone. Lyra looked at him, her eyes steady despite the ruin. Not gone. We saw it. We know the truth. That is enough. Ethan met her gaze. For the first time, he felt not just anger, not just hate, but something else. A spark of respect. The storm above cracked again, lightning tearing across the blood-red sky. The world was still dangerous, the enemy still hunting. But now they carried a secret greater than their war. The ruins had collapsed behind them, leaving only rubble and dust. Ethan and Lyra sat near the broken stones, their breaths heavy, their bodies sore. The storm above had quieted, but the sky was still red, the air thick with heat and ash. They had seen the truth. They had fought the guardians. And now they were trapped on a hostile world. Carrying a secret that could change everything, Ethan leaned against a rock, wiping blood from his forehead. His rifle lay across his lap, cracked but still usable. Lyra sat nearby, her glowing blade resting at her side. She stared into the distance, her face unreadable. Silence stretched between them. Not the silence of hate this time, but something. Heavier uncertainty. Finally, Ethan spoke. We were lied to. All our lives. Lyra's eyes shifted toward him. Yes, hate was not born. It was given. Her voice was calm, but Ethan felt the weight in her words. He thought of his brother, killed in the war. He thought of the years of bloodshed, the endless battles. Had it all been for nothing? Had it all been someone's design? His chest tightened. All that pain, all those lives, wasted. Lyra looked at him for a long moment, her gaze softer than before. Not wasted. Pain teaches. Pain shows us Who we are. Ethan let out a bitter laugh. And who am I supposed to be? A soldier who spent half his life killing your people? She tilted her head slightly. Maybe now, someone who must learn to save them. The words struck him like a blade. Save them. He didn't want to believe it, but part of him already did. Night came fast. The cold was sharper than the heat of the day, cutting through their armor and skin. They built a fire with broken debris and strange dry plants Lyra found near the rocks. The flames flickered weakly, but it was enough to keep the shadows at bay. They sat close to the fire, the first time they had ever been this near without arguing. Ethan chewed on a ration bar, dry and tasteless. Lyra ate nothing, staring into the flames as if searching for something beyond them. Finally, Ethan asked, "Why did you agree to this mission?" "Your people hate mine as much as we hate yours." Lyra's eyes glimmered in the firelight. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, quietly, she answered, "Because I lost someone, my sister." She believed humans could be more than enemies. She died in the war, still believing it. Her voice trembled for the first time. Only slightly, but enough. Ethan felt something shift inside him. He had imagined her as heartless, a warrior built only for battle. But now, he saw her scars. They were not so different from his own. He swallowed hard. "I lost my brother. He died fighting your people." Silence again, but different this time. Not sharp, not heavy. Just silence full of shared pain. Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable. "And now, we are all that is left of them." The fire burned lower. Shadows stretched around them. Strange cries echoed from the distance, but neither moved. They sat together, enemies who were no longer just enemies. Ethan spoke again, softer now. "You know, when we fought those ships, when we fought the Guardians, we actually made a good team." Lyra's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. Not sharp, not cruel. Something almost human. "Do not grow proud. Human. You still make many mistakes." He chuckled, shaking his head. "And you still act like you're perfect." Her eyes glimmered. "Maybe I am." For the first time, Ethan laughed not out of bitterness, not out of anger, but real laughter. It surprised him, and it surprised her too. For a brief moment, the fire warmed more than just their bodies. Later that night, they lay near the fire, their weapons close, their eyes watching the stars through breaks in the red clouds. Ethan whispered, "Do you think anyone out there wants us to come back alive?" Lyra's voice was calm. "No, that is why we must." Ethan turned his head slightly, looking at her profile in the firelight. She was still alien, still different, but she was no longer just an enemy. He saw strength, pain, and something fierce in her spirit that matched his own. He realized something dangerous. He trusted her, but trust was not safety. The ground trembled suddenly. The fire sputtered. In the distance, lights glowed, ships moving low across the horizon. Ethan's heart raced. They found us. Lyra rose instantly, blade glowing bright. Then let them come. The ships moved closer, scanning the ground with red beams of light. They were searching, hunting. The same enemies who had chased them from the start. Ethan grabbed his rifle, checking the last few rounds. "We can't fight them all." Lyra's eyes burned with fierce light. "Then we fight until we cannot." They stood side by side, shadows against the firelight, ready to face the hunters together. For the first time, Ethan did not feel alone. And for the first time, Lyra did not look at him as an enemy. The red beams swept over the rocks, crawling closer with every second. Ethan and Lyra crouched low, their weapons ready, hearts beating fast. The fire between them had burned down to embers, its smoke rising weakly into the night sky. The ships hovered closer, Their engines hummed like predators breathing down prey's neck. Then, with a sudden burst, spotlights cut through the dark. Locking on Ethan and Lyra. Ethan fired first, his rifle spitting sparks into the air. Lyra leaped forward, her blade glowing bright, cutting the beams aside. But there were too many. From the ship's black-armored figures dropped onto the ground. Their rifles aimed, their movements perfect and cold. Ethan shouted, "Run!" Lyra shook her head. No escape. In moments, the hunters surrounded them. Bolts of energy struck the ground, knocking the rifle from Ethan's hands. A blast hit Lyra's side, sending her crashing to the dirt. Her blade flickered, then went dark. Before either could move, heavy restraints locked around their wrists and ankles. The hunters moved in silence, masks hiding their faces, eyes glowing red. The world went black as something sharp struck Ethan's neck. When Ethan opened his eyes, he was no longer under the red sky. He was inside a cold chamber, the walls steel, the air humming with electricity. His arms were chained above him, his legs bound tight. Across from him, Lyra hung in the same way, her head bowed, her armor stripped away to reveal scars along her skin. She lifted her eyes slowly. Even chained, even broken, they still burned with pride. A figure stepped out of the shadows, tall, cloaked, face hidden behind a mask of black metal. The voice was deep, distorted, neither human nor alien. "You were not supposed to find the ruins," the figure said. "You were not supposed to see the truth." Ethan's jaw tightened. "So you're the one who erased it." The figure tilted its head. "History is dangerous. War keeps both your people under control. Unity would destroy everything we built." Lyra spat blood onto the floor. "You've built nothing but lies." The figure turned to her. "And you live because of those lies. Without them, you and this human would never have stood in the same room. Hate is power, and power belongs to us." The torture began. Electric currents tore through Ethan's body, burning his nerves, stealing his breath. He screamed but refused to bow. Across from him, Lyra endured blades that cut shallow wounds across her arms, her jaw clenched, her eyes locked on Ethan as if daring him to fall. The figure circled them like a shadow. "You hate each other. Always. It is what keeps you weak, what keeps us strong. But tell me, will you still hate after this?" The tortures grew worse. Past or maybe days, Ethan could not tell. Pain blurred time. His body trembled, his voice cracked. Every moment, he looked across at Lyra, and every moment, he saw her strength hold firm. Finally, the masked figure gave them a choice. "Only one of you will live," it said. "Choose who. Speak the name of the one who dies, and the other walks." Free. Silence, heavy. Endless. Ethan's heart raced. He could barely breathe, barely think. He had hated her. He had fought her. He had blamed her for his brother's death. But now, after everything, the crash, the fights, the ruins, the fire, he knew one truth. He could not let her die. Lyra spoke first. Her voice was weak, but steady. "Take me. Spare him." Ati's chest tightened. "No? Kill me. Let her live." Their voices overlapped, each offering their own life for the other. The chamber filled with the echo of sacrifice. The masked figure stood still, silent. Then, slowly, it laughed. A hollow, metallic laugh. So the hate is broken, the restraints released. Ethan and Lyra dropped to the ground, weak but alive. The figure stood over them. "You are no longer useful as enemies. But perhaps you will be useful as pawns." Before Ethan could rise, soldiers dragged them out of the chamber and into a dark hangar. There rows of ships waited, black and silent. The masked figure's voice followed them. "Your people will destroy each other soon. And when they do, we will rise. You will watch it happen, powerless. The soldiers shoved Ethan and Lyra into a cell. The door sealed behind them. Ethan leaned against the wall, his body shaking. Lyra sat across, her breath ragged, blood on her lips. He looked at her, voice hoarse. "You tried to save me." Her eyes met his. "And you tried to save me." For a long moment, neither spoke again. The silence was no longer hate, no longer pain. It was something new, trust, fragile but real. Outside the cell, alarms suddenly blared. The hangar shook as explosions rocked the base. Something was attacking the enemy's stronghold. Ethan rose slowly, fire in his eyes. "Looks like we're not finished yet." Lyra lifted her blade, faint sparks returning to its edge. Her voice was steady, fierce. "Then let us finish this together. Two enemies, no longer just enemies. Two warriors, tested by pain and choice. Now, not pawns. Now, a team." The alarms shook the fortress. Red lights flashed against the steel walls. Sirens howled like dying beasts. Ethan and Lyra pressed against the bars of their cell, listening as chaos filled the hangar beyond. Explosions thundered, soldiers shouted. Engines roared to life. Something was attacking the stronghold. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "This is our chance." Lyra tested the cell door, her blade sparking faintly in her hand. "It is weak. One strike may break it." She raised her weapon, slammed it against the lock. Sparks burst. Again, she struck. On the third blow, the door broke open, metal screeching as it fell to the floor. They ran into the hangar. Smoke filled the air. Enemy soldiers rushed in every direction, firing at unseen attackers. Above, ships exploded in bright fire, raining debris across the steel floor. Ethan grabbed a fallen rifle. "We get out, then we stop their fleet." Lyra's blade hummed to full life again, glowing brighter than ever. Together, the hangar became a battlefield. Soldiers turned on them, firing bolts of red energy. Ethan ducked, firing back with sharp precision, every shot tearing into black armor. Lyra moved like a storm, her blade cutting through steel, sparks flying with each strike. Side by side, they fought their way through waves of enemies. Ethan covered her back with gunfire. She deflected blasts that would have ended his life. There. Movements blended, no longer forced, no longer awkward now, perfect, natural. Unstoppable. They reached the command deck above the hangar. Through the glass, Ethan saw the fleet rising into the sky, dozens of black ships, engines burning as they prepared to launch toward human and alien worlds. His chest tightened. If they leave this planet, both our people are finished. Lyra's eyes burned with fierce light. "Then we stop them here." Inside the command deck, the masked figure waited. The same one who had tortured them, who had laughed at their pain. Its cloak moved in the smoke, its voice cold and sharp. "You cannot stop us." Hate was always stronger than trust. "Your kind will never unite." Ethan raised his rifle. "Then watch us prove you wrong." The battle was brutal. Soldiers poured into the deck, but Ethan and Lyra fought with fire in their blood. He fired until his rifle overheated, then swung it like a club. She danced with her blade, cutting down enemies with blinding speed. But the masked figure was faster still. Its weapon, a staff crackling with red energy, met Lyra's blade in sparks that shook the floor. Ethan charged, firing point blank, but the figure deflected every shot, its power unnatural, its speed beyond human or alien. The fight raged across the command deck. Glass shattered. Alarms screamed. Ethan was thrown to the ground, pain shooting through his ribs. Lyra struggled against the figure's strength, her blade shaking under the pressure of the staff. "Lyra!" Ethan shouted, forcing himself up. With one last surge, he leaped forward, slamming into the figure. The staff flew across the room. Lyra seized the chance, driving her blade into the figure's chest. Sparks exploded. Light flared on the mask. Cracked open dot inside was not human, not alien, something else. Something old. Its eyes burned red as it fell to the floor, voice fading into static. The war is not over. Then silence. But the fleet was still rising. Ethan and Lyra rushed to the control panel, sparks raining down from broken wires. The screen showed the ships preparing to jump into faster-than-light travel. Lyra pressed her hand against the alien interface, her symbols glowing across the screen. Ethan worked the human controls, rerouting power, forcing overrides. Together, their hands moved in sync to enemies, now acting as one. The engines of the fleet flickered. Systems screamed. One by one, the black ships lost power, crashing back into the hangar or exploding in midair. The sky lit with fire as the fleet was destroyed. The stronghold shook violently. Collapsing around them, Ethan grabbed Lyra's arm. "We have to go." They sprinted through smoke and flame, dodging falling steel and bursting pipes. At the edge of the hangar, a small shuttle waited, half broken but still alive. They climbed in, engines roaring, lifting off just as the fortress collapsed into fire. The shuttle broke through the clouds, leaving the burning fortress behind. For the first time in days, Ethan and Lyra saw the stars again, bright, endless, full of silent promise. They sat in the cockpit, breathless, their bodies battered but alive. Ethan looked at her. "We did it. Together." Lyra turned her gaze toward him. For once, her eyes were not cold. They were soft, steady, filled with something new. Yes, together. Silence stretched between them, but not the silence of hate, not the silence of mistrust. This silence was warm. It was something neither had expected. Ethan smiled faintly. "Funny, I never thought I'd trust someone like you." Lyra's lips curved into a small, rare smile. "And I never thought I'd care if a human lived or died." Their eyes met. The fire of war was still there, but something deeper had taken root, something dangerous, something powerful. For the first time, passion burned brighter than hate. The stars stretched endless ahead. The war between their people still raged across the galaxy. Lies still ruled. Enemies still waited. But Ethan and Lyra had changed. And maybe, just maybe, that change could spread.